Hey there, it's it's me, Guaichi, the YouTuber. Now, I had a whole intro planned for this video, but I felt like it created a sort of tonal whiplash when compared to the rest of the video. So today, instead, let me just fill you in. We're gonna be covering the Weathering with You, the film Weathering with You, and let me just read my script here, and I think I'll just give you the beginning here, right? So today, instead of covering the whole Shinkai cinematic universe, I think we'll just take a deep dive into Weathering with You and why it's all about the idea of growing up. Now that we have that out of the way, please enjoy the video. Now, before you continue with the video, go watch the movie. Not because I'm worried about what I'm about to spoil, but because I want you to see it through your lens before mine. Go watch the movie, take like an hour to think about what it means to you, then unpause this video and continue. Now, when discussing what it means to grow up in relation to Weathering with You, I believe the film explores the idea in a few different ways, one of the main ones being Hina's need to provide. The film begins with Hina sitting at the deathbed of her mother. As Hodaka narrates, and Hina later elaborates on, she wanted nothing more in that one moment than to take one last walk in the sunlight with her mother. She sees a pool of light at a shrine gate, and walks through praying with all her heart for the rain to disappear, and it does. But as a price, she takes on the responsibility of being the Sunshine Girl. This is something that both Hina and the film recognize through the necklace that she wears throughout the runtime. At first glance, it seems like nothing more than a cute raindrop necklace that ties together an outfit that goes with the aesthetic of the movie. However, upon closer inspection, it takes on a far more important meaning. The first appearance of the necklace was not on Hina. It was on the wrist of her dying mother. The next time we see it, of course, Hina is wearing it, and this could just be interpreted as Hina keeping something of her mother's clothes if it weren't for the fact that in the final moments of the climax, when Hina retires the position of Sunshine Girl, her necklace is broken, and isn't seen again for the remainder of the film. Now, what this tells us is that the necklace was more representative of all of her responsibilities. It's clear that before Hina decides to give her life for the rain, or even before the events of the film, Hina decided that she needed to grow up. Hina's role in this movie is that of a caretaker. She pretends to be older than she actually is so she can properly care for her brother. She breaks the rules and gives Hodaka free food when he's starving. She starts a whole business to keep herself financially stable, and even after she's lost her abilities, she continues to pray for the rain to leave. In other words, it could be said that everything Hina did for herself, Nagi, and the whole city of Tokyo, she grew up early so that nobody else had to. But it's not as if this were an easy decision for her. We can see the conflict in her best when the snow begins to fall. I believe the film explores this idea in a few different ways. One of the main ones being the not-so-subtle parallels drawn between Mr.Suga, Hodaka, and the decisions that they make. Now, Hodaka is Mr.Suga, and that's not to say that they're the same person, but that Hodaka is on the same path in life that Mr.Suga took. The story of Mr.Suga is a simple one, and one that's actually told to us specifically. He ran away from home when he was a teenager. When he got there, he fell madly in love with a girl, and the rest is history. Now, if we're both watching the same movie, you might have noticed, oh, hey, that's exactly what Hodaka's doing right now. He ran away from home to Tokyo and is currently falling madly in love with some girl. And that's not exactly a coincidence. Natsumi even states at one point in the film that they look like older and younger versions of each other. On top of that, the wedding ring that Mr.Suga wears looks incredibly similar to the ring that Hodaka gives to Hina. The only thing separating them right now is two choices, both regarding fight and flight. Now, Mr.Suga's story ends with his wife dying and him trying for custody of his daughter, not really enjoying life and regretting past decisions. However, Hodaka's story has yet to reach this point. So when Hina decides to give her life to stop the rain, he can simply let the cops take him home and forget that Hina ever existed, or he can fight for her. Now, it's at this point that Mr.Suga also has a decision to make. He can let Hodaka possibly mess his life up even further, or he can fight. Now, the scene in which this decision actually takes place for Mr. Suga is actually kind of interesting. A cop enters Mr. Suga's home looking for information on Hodaka. He looks around at photos of Mr. Suga and his night wife and height markings for his daughter while telling Mr. Suga that Hodaka is throwing his life away for a girl. Now, what makes the scene actually interesting is how Mr. Suga reacts to the conversation. He proceeds to adjust his ring for a moment and then cry, clearly realizing that Hodaka is making the same mistakes that he did. So when Mr. Suga finally catches up with Hodaka, it can be seen as sort of a confrontation between him and his younger self. This scene is filled to the brim with visual barriers and other elements that represent the conflict within Mr. Suga. He doesn't want to fight with Hodaka, but he has to because he doesn't want Hodaka to make the same mistakes that he did. The point of this scene is to show Mr. Suga's moment of growth. The moment he realizes that Hodaka has already broken into his own life path by choosing to fight for Hina. A choice that's better explored when the snow begins to fall. Now, when discussing what it means to grow up in relation to Weathering with You, I believe the film explores this idea in a few different ways. One of the main ones being the implication that nothing our characters do matters because the world changes regardless of their actions. Weathering with You has a very interesting relationship with karma, actions and consequences, cause and effect. The film asks in a few different ways whether or not our actions matter, like Hina's decision to give her life in order to bring back the sunlight, or Mr. Suga's decision to try and stop Hodaka when he goes to get Hina back. And the most important example, Hodaka's decision to bring back Hina in exchange for drowning Tokyo. Was it Hodaka's fault? Was it the wrong choice? Most of the film would say no, it's not. At around the midpoint in the runtime, Mr. Suga goes to talk to an old religious man who tells him two things. Number one, the legend of the Sunshine Girl. And number two, there's been nothing strange or abnormal about the constant rain. He claims that for thousands of years, the Earth has changed in many strange ways, and we humans have nothing to do with it. We're simply guests allowed to witness it. This is reiterated when Hodaka goes to visit an old customer of his whose house was sunk into the ocean because of his choice. He apologizes, but she tells him that it's okay, because it's not his fault. Many years ago, Tokyo was simply just a piece of the ocean, and now it's simply reverted back to just that. A piece of the ocean. Immediately following this interaction, Hodaka goes to see Mr. Suga, who has clearly been influenced by the religious man, who says that Hodaka didn't change anything and doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. The world is crazy and always will be, so don't sweat the small stuff. Everyone around Hodaka tells him that what he did didn't change anything and that it's not his fault. Now it's at this point the film asks us the question, is Hodaka responsible? And you can really go either way. It's not really as black and white as he is responsible or he isn't. Now obviously, it was Hodaka who brought back Hina, which in turn brought back the rain that drowned Tokyo, but he had no way of knowing the consequences of that specific action. And at the same time, he never really stopped to think about what the consequences might have been in the first place. Now there's a lot to unpack when it comes to deciding for yourself whether or not Hodaka is responsible for drowning Tokyo. But despite this, Hodaka himself decides to choose that he had a real effect, that his decision changed the world. And that is how Weathering with You explores growth, through Hodaka's willingness to take responsibility for his own actions, a decision which I think is best showcased when the snow begins to fall. The constant barrage of rain disappears and is replaced with silence. In this scene, the entire world seems to stop moving. And the way that I see it, this scene functions as a pause. One for our world, and one for our characters. For Hina, in this scene, the question is asked, is Hina actually connected to the sky? If she is, then why didn't the rain stop here? It's because Hina is conflicted right now. She wants to live and be with Hodaka and Nagi, but at the same time, she can clearly see all the pain and destruction the rain is causing as it gets worse. So here in this moment, instead of the rain stopping, it pauses. It waits for Hina to remember why she was the Sunshine Girl in the first place. She has a moment to recall how she made everyone smile with her ability to relieve the world of the rain. First and foremost, Hina is a caretaker, so it's really only natural for her in this situation to do what matters most for her and give her life so that everyone else can be happy. For Hodaka, this is the time when he begins to fulfill his prophecy and take the life path of Mr. Suga. He's a full-blown criminal, he's losing Hina, and he can't find a way to fix it. He looks more like Mr. Suga by the minute. However, the tone of the scene takes a 180 when he decides that he's going to get Hina back, even if it means that the reign will continue. Which is an interesting moment considering the film takes both sides of the argument by Hodaka's own words. You have to take responsibilities for your own actions, but at the same time, the world is crazy and we have no control. The snow is one last moment before Hodaka and Hina have to decide where to direct their lives. I would describe it as a quiet climax for the film. One last night to have a feast, sing karaoke, and enjoy a carefree life. The scene in the snow is one last night for our characters to act like kids before they have to grow up. So this is the original intro I had planned for this video.
You know where else it rained? Hello, it's me, Makoto Shinkai. All my movies are in the same universe.
However, even those two clips by themselves, I feel like generate a sort of tonal whiplash when compared to the rest of the video.